Here's a brief overview of two of the main tools that we utilize in Develop module when we're working in photo classes. Cropping tool, you select and you get a bunch of options. Obviously, you can see these handlebars pop up. You can recognize the grid that we talked about in our initial coursework when we talked about subject placement. You can move the grid anywhere you want to by grabbing a corner handlebar or a top handlebar, side handlebar, and adjusting it. One rule of thumb when you're cropping, you want to make sure you don't crop too much information out of your image because it will reformulate the pixels that you're cropping out to make the image larger. And so you'll quickly lose image quality by cropping too much information. For instance, if I wanted to come down and crop just this tiny little part of the image and I hit enter, I end up getting a much blurrier image because the computer has reformulated all these pink pixels and green pixels to try and make the image larger and fill the same frame that it was initially. So if I don't like that crop, I can click back on that cropping tool and notice the original image is still there. It has not affected the original image at all. Another rule of thumb when you're working with cropping is to make sure you stay with a standard crop ratio. Otherwise, it feels as though you're trying to intentionally keep the audience from seeing something that was already in the image. And so I recommend using either the original crop ratio, which would be a 2:3, a 1:1 crop ratio, which would be a square, a 4:5, which would be more of a digital crop, or an standard 8:10 sized image, or a 2:3, which would be also a standard 4:6, but also the original crop ratio of your image. You could, if you wanted to, enter panoramic, which is a 16:10. I would highly recommend that you use the standard crop ratio or the 1:1 square ratio. I can, once I'm in here with this crop ratio, if I want to crop this to a square, I can extend or compress whatever I want my audience to see. I can change by coming up here into the corner and rotating it. Notice it keeps the crop so that it's not cropping outside that square in either direction. Or I can change the angle over here as well. When I've found the crop that I want, I hit enter, and that will apply the crop. Again, it's keeping the original image, so if I change my mind later on, I can come back in, and I've got this crop ratio. I can go back to as shot, and there it is in its original state.